Okay, so tonight we're going to be just discussing how to lace up these lamellar plates, which have the curved top at the there. These ones are plastic plates that are cut on a CNC. These specific plates are slightly damaged, hence they're just my example ones. When you get these plastic style plates, you'll see that there's actually two sides to them, in that one of them is a very shiny kind of non-show face. The other is a much more matte show face. When using the plastic and when cutting the plastic, the show face comes with a protective layer on it. So in general, it should have no scratches on it. Whereas the non-show face, it's quite likely to have a lot of scratches on it, just because that's the side that goes down and it has no protection on it. When lacing up these plates, the first decision you need to make is how you actually want them to look when they've been laced together. The plates all lace up so that they're slightly overlapping each other, like so, and you can create a whole row like that. And then for the second row, you need to decide, do you want the plates to have that rounded top showing, or do you want to instead lay them out so the rounded top is beneath it and they look very square? It's completely up to you, personal taste and all the rest. One thing some people do consider is how they want the plates to overlap when they're actually wearing them on their body, in that if a plate has a sword coming in from this direction, the sword will hit the plate and then skip off, whereas coming from this direction, it will dig in. Whether you want it to skim off close to your sword side or your shield side, very much up to you. Whatever you do, you just have to pick the same pattern that you use all the way around. Having said that, I have seen a couple of people lay the plates like so that they have a overlapping pattern, so it doesn't matter which side they are on, they will just skip off like that. I haven't found any real noticeable difference like that. If you're getting thrusts coming onto you and your only defense is which way the plates are laid out to stop them actually catching, then you've got bigger problems to talk about than the plates will necessarily help you. However, they do give you a slight advantage. Next, what we use to hold all the plates together is paracord. This paracord here is a fairly cheap one. You can see it's pretty thin, but that's okay for these plastic plates. These plastic plates are very light. They don't have sharp corners. They don't cut into your paracord. So usually fairly cheapo paracord works fine. If you're using the metal plates or the aluminium plates, I would recommend going for a much higher quality paracord, because those plates do have sharp edges, they do weigh a little bit more, and so they do tend to kind of cut into the cord, causing it to fray, and really cheap cord, you'll have less of a lifespan out of them. Now, the problem with this paracord and lacing up these plates is you have to basically decide how long a piece of paracord you're going to use for a section of plates before you start lacing it up. As a general rule, lacing up the plates in a pattern like so, you're going to use twice the amount of paracord as the final width is going to be. To do the paracord lacing one row to the next row, you're using about 1.5 times the paracord to go through that line there. But again, it's a case of you're usually better off going with a bit of extra paracord and cutting off the excess at the end than you are being stingy and having to come through and join multiple bits of paracord on to continue them on. Anyway, with the paracord, what you'll notice is when you buy it, one of the ends, or both ends hopefully, will have a melted end there. The paracord suppliers have a special pair of scissors which melts the paracord when they cut it. The reason for that is the many strands inside will start coming apart if you don't melt it back together. So that means every time you cut the paracord, what you want to do is you want to get a lighter and you want to just slightly melt the ends so that they come into a little bit of a blob, just so that they won't fray again. However, to make lacing all these plates better and easier, what you can also do, and you can either do this with gloves on or you with a little bit of paper on your hands or just your hands yourself, is once it's cooled a little bit, grab it, roll it, and what you can do is you can put a slight point on it. That's just kind of like a needle. It just makes getting it through hundreds of holes much easier if it has a little bit of a point on it rather than a big blob, because that blob just gets stuck in the holes and you can't get it through. So yeah, that's the kind of melted end that you want to do. For these plates, I wouldn't bother with much more of a point than that. However, some people do also put like gaff tape or something on there to make it a bit more pointy. Now, to start lacing up, what we do is we put a figure of 8 or any kind of knot at one end of your paracord, grab a plate, from the back of the plate come forward through the hole, pull it all the way through, grab your next plate, up through that hole, down through the next hole, and then down through your original plate. When you pull that all together and get all the cable through, unfortunately, you will have a bit of cable to pull through depending on how long a row you want to do. That will lace 2 of your plates together quite easily. From the back, it just looks like this. When you get your next plate, you then want to make sure you keep the pattern going, and you want to go down through one plate, into the other plate, back up, and then back up through the new plate. Just make sure you don't get into too much of a mess. And how I tend to do this is I tend to hold the string there, grab this one and just pull all that through, quite easy, and then pull it through again with that piece. As you can see, that just holds the plates together. And then you just keep going. Now, the number of plates you want is to basically be able to go around your waist at roughly your belly button level and sit all the way around you to however you're comfortable. Like, some people like to do it super tight. Some people like to do their lamella fairly loose. I'm one of the more looser fighters. I prefer to keep myself able to shimmy inside my lamella, and so I don't do it particularly tight. Other people like to actually get a bit of support out of their lamella and be able to basically rest standing up, or they don't like it moving on them. I'm not that kind of a fighter, but then again, it's all about personal preference. As you can see, the pattern just repeats, making sure you put all the display faces on. And now I've gone and screwed it up myself. Make sure you put all the display faces the same way, your overlapping continues the same way, and your threading comes from the back to the front, through the plates like so, and then continues on. And there you go. That is how you set up one row. Now, again, tension-wise, at this point in time, you're not looking to over-tension it just because you want to be able to put it together and maneuver it. At the end, you might go through and just pull a bit of extra through just to get them a little bit tighter. Again, it's really up to you. How tight do you want it? How flexible do you want it? But yeah, it's just a case of pulling it through. Once you've finished all your rows, it's just a case of tying it off, and there you go. Now, a few people, that's a terrible knot. I would, if I wasn't stopping here, I would actually tie a much better knot than that one. Some people also put a dab of super glue on those knots just to help hold them all together. I've never really found them to come apart as long as you do a reasonable knot, like a figure of 8 knot. But yeah, and that's all you do for one row. I'm going to now off camera do a little bit more of a row, and then I'll show how to connect 2 rows together in the next video. Anyway, let us know if you've got any questions, and yeah, we'll talk a bit more about this in shortly. Bye.